Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Now, back to Kathy in Davos. Kathy.
Thank you, Matt. Well, here in Davos, you can't move for world leaders and business bosses. It's a pretty expensive crowd in a very jet-setting location. So perhaps the perfect setting to talk about wealth distribution and inequality. A report by Oxfam earlier this week found that 62 people owned the same wealth as half the planet. So to talk about that are Winnie Byanyima, who's the Executive Director of Oxfam, and Anne Richards, who's Chief Investment Officer of Aberdeen Asset Management. Winnie, first, you've got all these jet-setting crowd here. A lot of them have come in by private jets and so on. What can they realistically do here in Davos to reduce inequality?
Well, we have government leaders as well as business leaders. Government leaders have the responsibility of getting out of the cozy bed they are in with business and regulating and making laws that will make the economy work for the majority and not for the few.
Well, Anne Richards, that's the point, isn't it? That the capitalism is working for the 1% who are here, but not the other 99%.
It's a really difficult conundrum when you look at it, because actually globally inequality has actually shrunk in terms of the highs and the extremes, but you have seen this concentration right at the very top. But in countries, I think what you've seen is you've seen a disparity of income coming through, which has really fueled discontent. And I think one of the things that we've got to do is look at long-term capital and get capital investing for the long term to create the economic growth, which creates the jobs, which then feeds through into what people actually individually take home.
Well, Anne did make the point at the start of that answer. I mean, if you look at the UN figures, the proportion of people in developing countries on less than $1.25 a day has actually gone down from 47% to 22%, hasn't it?
We need to understand what we mean when we say extreme poverty. If you're talking about people who are struggling to live on $1.25, moving a little bit and living on $1.30, then you can claim victory and say that you've moved people out of poverty. What we know is that these people are vulnerable to shocks, economic shocks. When shocks happen, someone is ill in the family, somebody dies, a breadwinner dies, they sink right back into poverty. We celebrate, Oxfam celebrates when people are lifted out of poverty. We do, because that's our mission. However, if these people are being lifted up and falling back in the bottom again, that's not victory. Secondly, we could do better. The World Bank has shown that 200 million more people could be lifted out of poverty if the incomes of the people at the bottom were rising faster than the 1% at the top. So we can do better.
And one way you could do better, Anne, is on tax avoidance, for example. Now, your firm lost a court battle a couple of years ago. It was an offshore scheme you had to reduce the tax on employees' bonuses. Do you agree that firms could do more to tackle tax avoidance?
That's a really old scheme, and absolutely, I think the environment around tax and what is permissible has absolutely changed. I think the thing that we need to bear in mind in all of this is that for business, I think absolutely right, they should be paying their fair share of tax. No argument about that at all. But also I think we should bear in mind that it's in the interests of business to lift people out of poverty too. And I think that's one of the fundamental areas where our interests are aligned. Because if we can lift people out of poverty, crudely for business, they become consumers, they purchase other products, and everybody benefits. So I don't think there's any argument about that.
And do you back this Deutsche Bank idea where the senior employees at Deutsche Bank are going to take lower bonuses so that more junior staff can get more money?
I think that's happened informally in the city for quite a while, actually. It's certainly not the first time I've heard about it, but what I think is really to be celebrated is, as far as I'm aware, that's the first time it's been formalised by somebody. So hats off to them. I think it's a great initiative.
A lot of greed in the city too, though.
Yeah, absolutely. And greed is a bad thing in excess, but it's a very, very strong motivator of entrepreneurship and of some of the better things that happen in the economy as well. It's unbridled greed, the greed that is difficult.
When are you frowning at that?
I'm frowning because, you see, the wage gap has been widening at an alarming rate in the last 20. The salaries, the incomes of the bottom the ordinary people, have been static, while the incomes of the people at the top have been skyrocketing. We are in a situation that is totally unprecedented. We need to do something to reduce that wage gap. And let's not forget that those few at the top are mostly men. That wealth isn't even shared by women. And secondly,
Winnie, I'm really sorry, we have to end it there. Winnie and Anne, thank you very much for joining us. That's it from here in Davos.